Kia ora koutou, Markie here again, looking particularly grizzled. I've had quite an intense 4 days working. Okay, so I want to go back, I want to expand on something, I guess, the best way to put it, that I did a video on back along, which was about what's the difference between a psychic and a medium. And in the process I managed to talk about shamanism a little bit as well, but one thing that was glaring in its omission was channeling. Okay, so channeling, I guess there's probably other applications for this particular word, but in the context that I mean it on this occasion, is a little bit like mediumship, really. So channeling means, as you would imagine, being a channel for something, a vessel, a conduit is often the word that's used. So it's similar to the word medium in a way, really. So medium is something that can kind of come through, like a translator or an interpreter. So a channel, a channel is somebody that. So I guess what's the main difference between a channel and a medium? There's a huge overlap, really, and these things are, are very nuanced. So it's not always, desperately clinically clear, where one begins and another ends. But I guess, yeah. So an example would be a medium is kind of talking to you. And is also talking to somebody who has passed over and is on the other side, if you like, the spirit realm, whatever you want to call it, and is kind of, if you like, kind of working like an interpreter, saying, "Oh yes, okay, he's saying this," and passing on messages between the two. But then you get trance medium, which can start to get into more that you actually kind of bring through the other person. So it's without wanting to sound too alarmist, it's a little bit like a kind of temporary possession. It's like so with a channel, when you're channeling something, the person can actually kind of come into you and talk through your voice and speak through you, so it's kind of direct. So it's not like he says this. So it's like suddenly, Markie has kind of been pushed to one side, or the personality of Markie's been pushed to one side, and Elron, the Archduke of the Pleiades, is using Markie's voice and speaking directly to you, whoever's listening. So sometimes this takes the form of speech, sometimes it takes the form of writing. So there are channeled books. So Crowley famously, I think the Book of Thelema, is it the Book of Thelema? One of the, I think probably more than one of Aleister Crowley's books were supposedly channeled. So they were kind of, I'm not sure it was him or his wife that wrote them, but their hand was, supposedly guided and controlled by a discarnate entity. So that is channeling. Now, if you're of a Christian disposition, you're probably going to be horrified by that. But let me remind you that what is the difference between that and speaking in tongues? If you've got the charismatic Christian gift of glossolalia, you've got the Holy Spirit. You're channeling the Holy Spirit. So you didn't expect that, did you? But Christians would be suspicious that tend to kind of regard kind of channeling as highly dubious, because they don't really kind of give credence to other kind of entities, and suspect that that is the door to the demonic and evil spirits. And who knows? These things are complex. Who knows? If you do this stuff, how do you know who or what you are indeed channeling? So in a way, channeling is in some ways you could look at it as the missing link, the gap, somewhere in between mediumship, where you're communicating with a discarnate entity, and and possession, where a discarnate entity is working through you and using your body, maybe your hand to write, or your voice box and your mouth and tongue to speak. What do I think about channeling? Yeah, I think it's something that I'm open to the possibility of. Whenever I've actually witnessed people doing channeling, I've been very unconvinced, and I get very uncomfortable when people do channeling. And my experience often of people channeling is that I don't know. It's a bit like, I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable with people channeling. I also feel uncomfortable with people that ride unicycles. And I think the kind of maybe the connection between those two things is there can be an element of kind of showing off with both. So I was kind of a spiritual meeting, and somebody that was leading it said, "Oh, I feel that we have a visitor. Let me see if I can channel them." And whenever people channel stuff, they always talk funny, which I guess they would really, because if it's something else speaking through them. But it always seems a bit corny to me, and nearly always, in my experience, I don't know, maybe this is just me generalising, but nearly always when I've heard people channeling, they've began what they're saying with greetings. And that immediately makes me kind of suspicious. It's like, greetings. Do all discarnate entities say greetings? Probably not. So I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm harsh. I certainly don't think that the people who I have witnessed doing channeling have been channeling anything particularly dark, but in some cases I do suspect that it's and I don't think they're fraudulent either, the people that I've witnessed. I think it's a genuine belief, but it kind of comes from an unconscious drive for attention seeking and a kind of narcissism, because often people that become spiritual teachers are often of a narcissistic persuasion. It's a great, if you're a narcissist and you want lots of narcissistic supply, become a I don't really mean this, become a spiritual leader, become a priest, become a somebody that runs a group, a coven leader, whatever. And you'll get kind of and attract kind of acolytes around you, and tell them all the things that nobody really knows, like what happens after we die and the meaning of life, and give them all the answers, and that will satisfy your narcissistic supply. So sorry, forgive my kind of cynicism, but I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand either. I think when I look at kind of historical channeling, when I look at things like Crowley and people like that, I kind of tend to kind of take it far more seriously. But now it seems like every Tom, Dick and Harry is channeling stuff. So there's a couple of quite famous channeled books, and I can't remember the names of them. Abraham is a channeled entity. But there are quite a few. I mean, if you just Google channeled books, you'll probably come up with lots of stuff. So who comes through when people are channeled? Well, I think a lot of Christians would say, it's nearly always evil spirits. So technically, it could be dead people, could be dead loved ones. So therefore it's not that big a leap from mediumship. But also, what they call ascended masters, which are people that have achieved a degree of enlightenment in this life and are in higher realms, but still have the ability to make contact with us and offer guidance from their spirit guides, which is kind of similar, but usually not quite so elevated. Deities. And you can argue about what deities are. One man's deity is another man's demon. And angels, so one man's angel is another man's demon, and also alien, and that's what I witnessed. I think this one particular event that's strong in my mind, where somebody said greetings, and it was kind of somebody from some galaxy long ago and far away, and I'm never too sure about all that kind of stuff, really. I don't like to diss people's beliefs, but that one doesn't kind of sit very comfortably with me, I guess. But that's not to dismiss it out of hand. So big overlap with mediumship, and I guess lots of mediums do a little bit of channeling, and probably people that do channels are probably also mediums. and going back to the original video, probably also psychic and clairvoyant on all those other things. So so we've got kind of big Venn diagrams here with overlaps and all that kind of thing going on. So I hope that has clarified things. I hope you now know the clear difference, which there isn't really a clear difference, as there are these overlaps, but the different flavors, if you like, of mediums, psychics, channels, and shaman. So, on that note, Rangimarie.